Line and circle systems are the next step up for us when it comes to graphing two different shapes and seeing how they cross. In this case, we're talking about circles being crossed by lines, and there are three ways that this will work out. Most times we're going to see it like this, where it crosses twice. Occasionally we'll see it where it looks like this, where it crosses once, and occasionally it won't cross at all. So 2 times, 1 time, none. Now we can do all this by graphing because we just learned how to graph circles and we already know how to graph lines. Today we're going to focus on solving these systems algebraically, doing these by hand according to the numbers. So starting with our first example, x squared plus y squared equals 9. Y equals x minus 3. So we have ourselves a system, and they're going to tell us to solve the system. Just looking at it, obviously the simpler one is the line, so the second one is a line. That's y equals mx plus b form. So the other one has to be the circle, and we can tell it's a circle because of x is squared and y is squared. They're being added, and then this thing over here should be the radius. So that would give us all hints to graph this if we needed to. We're going to do this algebraically, and what we're going to use is substitution. Alright, so we're going to take this line, you see it's y equals this piece, and plug that whole piece into y here. Okay, we're going to substitute that in. So rewriting the circle equation with just x, so x squared plus, instead of y, we're going to put something in there, and I'll put a blank for right now. So previously this piece was y, but we already know that y in the other one is equal to x minus 3. And now if we look at this, we only have the letter x left. Now, don't be tricked and want to distribute this 2 in there. We can't do that because there's a binomial inside. What this means is that we actually have to write it out twice. Okay, so this means write it twice. Put 2 times. Now write it twice. So we have x minus 3 and x minus 3 equals 9. And now you can either use your box method or FOIL or whatever works for you. X squared minus 3x plus 9 equals 9, and don't forget that x squared up in the beginning. Okay, we've gotten rid of parentheses. Let's keep combining. X squared and x squared make a 2x squared. Negative 3x and negative 3x make a negative 6x. And we want this whole thing to be equal to 0, so what we're going to do is subtract this 9 over, and you'll notice that those 9's cancel out. Still equal to 0. With only 2 terms left, we know that we need to factor this, and when both terms have a variable, we want to use Gcf Factoring, what they both share, what they have in common. They both share a 2 and 1x. So dividing that out, 2x squared divided by 2x leaves me with x, minus 6x divided by 2x leaves me with 3. And the reason we do this is because now, technically it is 2 sets of parentheses, and 2 sets touching, we can split and set equal to the 0. Because remember, we should get 2 answers. Alright, most times we get the 2 answers. Alright, so on this first side, divide both sides by 2. X equals 0. On the other side, add 3 over. X equals 3. Now remember, we got to think about this in general. It's a circle, and a line crosses through it, most likely twice. So what we're seeing here are 2 points, an xy and an xy. Right now we have an x and an x. We have the x, we have the x. So just like before, we need to take each x and plug it back into the equation and solve for y. And when we do this, choose the line again. Okay, you can choose either equation, but the line is a lot simpler. You see this one? Plug it into the line equation. So I'm going to write that y equals x minus 3, and instead of x, this time we'll plug in 0, and 0 minus 3 is negative 3. On the other side, take the same equation, x minus 3, instead of x, plug in 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. And last thing you want to do is just write these as points, as coordinates to show where these cross. So my first point is 0, negative 3. The other point is 3, comma, 0. And there we have the 2 points of where this line and parabola cross each other. All right, let's take a look at another one. So for example, let's solve the system of x squared plus y squared equals 25. X plus y equals 7. So looking at it, obviously the first one is going to be the circle, okay, centered at the origin because 0, 0, radius of 5, this is the circle. Here, that means this one has to be the line. It's not quite in y equals mx plus b form yet, but I can rearrange it by subtracting the x over. Now rewrite it as y equals, we can put the x first because that's how we like mx plus b, and that is the line here. So really it's probably best that I use this equation and this equation. And again, we're going to use substitution. So this is what y is. I'm going to substitute it into here. So this whole piece is going into here. So x squared plus that thing that I'm going to plug in instead of y, it's negative x plus 7. And hopefully we're realizing by now this means write it twice. X squared plus negative x plus 7, negative x plus 7 equals 25. Now we'll go ahead and multiply it out. Negative x times negative x is a positive x squared, and negative 7x plus 49 equals 25. Still have this x squared in the front. Alright, combine like terms. The x squared and the x squared go together. That makes a 2x squared. These go together, make a negative 14x. And subtract the 25 over. That will give us a plus 24 equals 0. This time I'm stuck with 3 terms. Any chance you get, try GCF first to see if I can knock these numbers down a little bit. And it looks like I can take a 2 out of all of them, leaving me with x squared minus 7x, so we're dividing everything by 2. And now we don't have to really worry about that 2 anymore. Let's x factor this and get the answers. So the top number is 1 times 12. That's a 12. On the bottom, negative 7. So I'm looking for 2 numbers that will multiply to give me positive 12 and add to give me negative 7. Those 2 numbers are negative 3 and negative 4. So I can write those if I really want to. X minus 3 and x minus 4 equals 0. And set everything equal to this 0 now. Alright, I can ignore the 2 because 2 equals 0 just doesn't make any sense, so we'll just get rid of that. X minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. So my first answer is 3, my second answer is 4. But remember, we're not quite done. We need to take both of those x values and plug them back in and get the y values. And it's your choice. You can choose the circle or you can choose the line, but the line is always the easiest, the simplest equation. So I'll go ahead and use the line. So y equals negative x plus 7. So y equals negative 3 plus 7. That's me plugging in the 3. So y equals 4. On the other one, same equation. Plug in that 4. So it's a -4 and a +7 make it +3. There's the second point. Let's just write it in coordinate form to clean everything up. My first point is 3, 4, and my second point is 4, 3. So very similar, but not quite the same. They're close, not the same. All right, let's try one more. Again, solve the line circle system here. X squared plus y squared equals 16. X equals -4. So again, the first one is the circle. The second one is the line, but we got to be careful. If we were to graph this, it says x equals. And remember, x equals is a vertical, straight up and down line. So somehow this line and circle go together, and we'll see how they cross. Now this time, the other thing to be careful of, because it's x equals, we're going to plug that in here for x. Okay, we have x, we're going to plug in x. And instead of x is going this number here, the -4. So -4, whole thing squared, plus y squared equals 16. -4 squared, so this time we don't have to write it twice because it's just one piece inside. That's a 16. Plus y squared equals 16. Let's get y by itself, so subtract 16. Y squared equals 0. Now, not quite done just yet. We got to square root this to get rid of the exponent 2. Square root this side. Square root of 0 is 0. If it was any other number, we'd go plus or minus, like plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, and then we'd have two answers. But 0, there really is no plus or minus. So we only have the one y value. So what we're seeing here is only one point does this circle and the line cross at. Now, a little bit different this time. They have the y value, they want the x value. Now I could take this y value and plug it in and solve for x. I could plug it in here. It looks like a little bit of work, but look right here. I'll highlight it for you. This already tells us what x is. X is -4. So if they already tell you, don't have to do any math on it, x is -4. So that is the point at which both the line and the circle cross. Alright, so we saw a couple different versions of how this works out. We've seen it cross twice. We've seen it also cross twice here, very unique points, and then the last one just crossed once. But the thing to remember here is a circle and a line. There are 3 opportunities, and the most times we're going to see is 2 times crossing. All right, solving the systems using substitution.